I think a lot of people think of meditation, or at least certain kinds of meditation, as being very passive. And you noted that there's sort of a receptive quality to certain meditations. And so I'd love to hear you talk a little bit more about the relationship between, say, creativity and meditation or mindfulness, and how we may be able to, say, reorient our perception of what meditation is, or what it can do for us, and say a little bit more of an active sense.
Yeah. So again, looking at another trinity. So for example, as a Vajrayana practitioner, it's often talked about the 3 Yana journey, meaning like the 3 vehicles which bring you from basically samsara to nirvana. At least that's the sort of starting place there. So within Vajrayana Buddhism, there's these 3 vehicles are the Hiniyana, which is basically the narrow path. It's the focus on self. And then there is the Vajrayana, the Mahayana. Yeah, the Mahayana, which is basically the greater vehicle. And finally, you have the Vajrayana, which is known as the indestructible vehicle. And so starting with the Hiniyana is essentially about working with yourself. Typically, the reason that people get into meditation in the first place is because something is not working in their life. And so the basic meditation that I was taught is something called shamatha vipassana, which just means shamatha is dwelling in peace, vipassana means insight. So the idea is that by sitting there and watching your breath, focusing on that focal object, what you start to develop is awareness of the space between thoughts. And that space between thoughts is exactly the same as an insight. Those are the spaces of insights, meaning there's a ground of awareness that is always already available, that is not, overtaken by thoughts or discursiveness. And again, when you can learn how to tap into that, and it's not a matter of putting more stuff on, it's about moving things out of the way. That's what starts to create, again, that ability to trust in your own experience. And I would say that is kind of the seed of what we have when we are in that Hiniyana phase, when we're working with ourselves. And the relief comes when we recognize it's like, no, our thoughts are not the basis of our experience. There's this ground below there that is rich and vast and full of potentiality. And that's what we relate to in that first phase. When we go into the Mahayana, after we have an experience in the Hiniyana, we feel a sense of sort of grounding. Often there's a sense of upwelling and the desire to help, to serve, to want to do more, to help our fellow beings out. And that's when we start to move into the archetype of the Bodhisattva. And the Bodhisattva is, again, one who wants to contribute to the well-being, right? Again, connection, contribution. The Bodhisattva is wanting to contribute. And they're wanting also to alleviate suffering in others. And so the Mahayana is really about that manifestation. It's taking the insights that you've gained from the Hinayana path and the connection that you start to have with the ground, and start bringing that in service of other people and the world at large. That's the sort of the way of looking at it. And then finally, we get to the Vajrayana. The Vajrayana is, again, known as the indestructible vehicle. And the idea is as opposed to being just sitting on, the mat as we do within the Hinayana or in the Mahayana of working out in the world, it's like what we're trying to do in the Vajrayana is to bring all experiences into that place of awareness. So even things that are difficult or challenging, big emotional states, passion, aggression, and intoxicants, we're trying to bring that sense of awareness into all of those things and see them all as bliss and emptiness, or luminosity and emptiness. Like we're riding the razor's edge between, ignoring and being overwhelmed. on some levels. And so those are the ways in which a mindfulness practice, I believe, evolves over time. I really love the Vajrayana, the 3 yana journey in that, because it does take you through these different steps. Again, that place of gross level confusion in the Hiniyana and moving towards, a sense of wisdom. And then in the Mahayana, just recognizing our innate ability to care for other people when we're able to care for ourselves first, right? When we put on our oxygen masks first. And finally, in the Vajrayana, as opposed to keeping things out in the world, including difficult news, difficult people, difficult situations, challenges, that we get this courage to take things on and say, okay, I'm going to make a stand for my healing. I'm going to make a stand for my family's healing. I'm going to do what I can to work with the greater earth, or whatever it is that you're up to. That starts to become the indestructible path, because you're infusing your daily life and your activities with a mindfulness practice, with a way of looking at the world that, again, neither solidifies nor steps out of entirely.